Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. You know the drill. We're retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. This way you can hear Ed Wallace's phone go off every time we go live or upload another video. Hey, tonight we're going to get into it. Karen Reed trial day, what is it, 13, Ed? Friday the 13th? It's not Friday the 13th, but it's the 13th day of the trial on a Friday. Sergeant Yuriy Bukhenik, again, making a complete fool of himself and proving to the world that he is dumber than dumb. And I say that, I don't say that just to joke with it. This guy is a dummy, and there's no getting around it. Before we go into it, I want to say I started in the studio with my shirt on inside out, and I noticed it. Ed Wallace didn't notice the details, or he did notice it, and he wanted me to go live with my shirt on inside out. But I noticed it, and that's why we're late, so I apologize. Ed, how you doing tonight? And what's your thoughts on what we saw today on the 13th day on Friday?
Well, first, I'm going to need therapy after seeing you take your shirt off. But other than that, yeah, it was another day of the sergeant testifying and being combative and for no reason whatsoever, not admitting to some of the simplest things and making himself look unprofessional. I don't see honor and integrity in the investigation. I'm sorry there, Sergeant. It may be time to seek another career, okay? Because this one ain't working out too well.
Yeah, and I got to say, he definitely is not a good supervisor, and he shouldn't be in the role that he is in. I said that last night on our live stream. Sergeant Bukhenik is not a homicide detective sergeant. He does not know his ass from his elbow, and it's clear and evident as you look at this trial testimony. Ed, he does not have a good command of the King's English, or played that he didn't, and he said it was his third language. I get that he was born in Ukraine and that he came here, but he came here as a young kid, 3 years old. He was a child, right? So him using that as an excuse and asking for a dictionary, I think that was him just being a cocky SOB. Let us know what you think in the comments section. Did you was it a big turnoff today with Sergeant Bukhenik, the way he was responding to Alan Jackson? Put a 1 in the chat if you feel it was. Put a 2 if you thought that he was okay. I mean, look, if you think he's okay, don't be shy. Put a 2 if you think he was okay. I'm putting a 1 right now. Hold on. I'm voting for me and Ed. 1.
I mean, you know, you pick and choose your battles. You know, he's battling over everything, and there's no reason for it, and it makes him look petty and silly to the jury's eyes. Now I understand from people that are in the courtroom that may be reporting to other people that the jury's outright laughing now at him.
Yeah, he's a big dummy.
Okay.
He's a big dummy, and everybody's laughing at him. And you never really hear this from me, Ed and myself. We don't like to do this, but man, this guy, he's doing it to himself. Ed, I want to go to this quick piece. This sums up the day. Coexist, thank you 2020 for the $10. Coexist, you've been around for a long time. And she says, I bet Ed was climbing the walls today.
100%.
Yeah, going batshit crazy with all the defiance, lies, and plain arrogance and stupidity. What a clusterfuck circus show this is. And Coexist, you can type it out in the chat. Feel free to use the cursey words here. We don't mind.
Charlie Foxtrot.
We just don't like to use them all the time. But as you guys heard last night, Ed was busting out a couple of curse 4-letter choicers. So let's listen to this. This sums up a little bit of the day.
Tonight on Canton Confidential, a key investigator returns to the stand.
Every piece of evidence is important.
The state police sergeant forced to read text messages between Karen Reed and ATF agent Brian Higgins.
You're hot. Feeling is mutual. Is that bad?
The relationship thrown under the microscope.
I was basically begging you.
Plus, the atmosphere in the courtroom during key moments.
Well, if you can bring up the Webster's Dictionary, I can read it.
A juror from the first trial weighs in. Canton Confidential, the Karen Reed murder trial, starts right now.
A pretty intense week in court comes to a close in Denham. Good evening. I'm Glenn Jones.
I'm JC Monahan. Even in the second trial for Karen Reed, new information is coming to light each day. A total of 13 witnesses took the stand this week. You're looking at the first 12, whom we saw Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But yesterday and today, all eyes were on this man, State Police Sergeant Yuriy Bukhenik. He supervised the lead investigator in this case, the now former trooper Michael Proctor. Today, Bukhenik was grilled by the defense about evidence that was collected.
These are pieces of taillight cover collected from Karen Reed's SUV. And there's questions about who collected each piece and when. But the most contentious testimony came from these text messages. You're looking at messages sent between Karen Reed and ATF agent Brian Higgins. Messages Bukhenik, who wasn't involved in these conversations, was forced to read on the stand. The texts reveal a lot about the relationship between Reed and Higgins.
All right, let's bring in NBC 10's Melody Mendez live outside Norfolk Superior Court in Dedham. Melody, a lot to dissect from what was said in court today.
Yes, JC and Glenn, I'm glad you guys mentioned it because though there was only one man on the stand all day, there was a whole lot to cover, a lot to dissect. Here's a look.
Can you describe for the jurors exactly where each of the, let's take them one at a time, where each of the 6 pieces of plastic fragments were found?
It was all located in the general vicinity where it was initially excavated, but also where I was told Mr. John O'Keefe was found.
Did you seek to actually document where each item was found? In other words, by cross coordinates or some other such manner?
The exact location where each item was recovered from was not documented with a picture or GPS.
Jackson.
And we're not going to go into it right now, but I just wanted to stop it right there just to get your condensed answer to what he just told. And that wasn't everything in its totality of what he said. But was anything that he said at the end there about documenting the evidence and not taking photos correct?
No, it was not in the standard of forensics. When you conduct a crime scene investigation, you have to document where each piece of evidence comes from. It has to be shown on a sketch. You have to take measurements. He didn't do any of that, nor did he call the crime scene investigators who are trained to do just that to do it. Okay.
They were found in the general area. All of them were found in the general area and not documented.
And so where's the integrity of the investigation? In New York, as I keep saying time and time again, once the district attorney reviewed this case with these detectives coming in to present this case to them for prosecution, they would have laughed these guys out of their office and kicked them out. They wouldn't have went to trial with this.
This would have been a 343, as we know it, declined to prosecute. I mean, this is a sham. This is a disgrace to police officer John O'Keefe and his family. It's a disgrace to the profession. And when Alan Jackson, and kudos to Alan Jackson, there's not many defense attorneys that I actually love. I actually love the way he goes at his cross-examinations, the way he goes at the witnesses. He is like a pit bull, and he never let up. He was relentless with exposing Sergeant Bukhenik for the non-investigator that he is. He's not an investigator.
And no reasonable person who knows the smallest aspects of the crime scene standards can say what they did was reasonable, or can come up with some excuse to overlook all the flaws in their investigation and all the flaws in their crime scene techniques. He took all those plastic pieces and put them in packages together. They're supposed to be individually packaged. Okay, there is not one lick of documentation, yet he says there's integrity in this investigation. There's no integrity. There is no investigation.
Right.
Okay?
And
look at the size of those pieces. How did you miss that in all those other searches before?
Yeah. And let's not even get into reports being filed 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500 days later. Jagaloon 101. Yes, somebody put it in the chat. Let's get some Jagaloon, hashtag Jagaloon. That's how you spell it. Jagaloon.
You know, I was talking to my wife before the show, and my wife is also a first grade detective and a major case detective.
Margaret is no nonsense.
Huh? Oh, yeah. No nonsense. But I was talking to her. I said, hon, what would happen to you if you conducted an interview and didn't generate a report until 584 days after the interview? Oh, she goes, she would have taken her hit. Her bosses would have taken a hit for failure to supervise. First of all, in the NYPD, they would have never let,
It wouldn't have been a 5-day hit. It would have been a 30-day hit.
First of all, there's no supervisor in the NYPD that negligent that they wouldn't have said, where's your DD5?
Yeah.
Which is what we call the form that we use.
Right. These are the detectives' forms that are filled out and entered into the system.
No crime scene report, no chain of custody, no evidence log, nothing. The integrity of the evidence cannot be accounted for. If you can't show a prosecutor where the evidence was at the crime scene, the case is over. Gone. Bye. Goodbye. 343.
Wait until Monday when Alan Jackson gets a hold of Sgt Bukhenik and starts questioning about the inverted video in the Canton PD garage. Wait until that happens. That's happening this Monday, ladies and gentlemen.
It's been masterful thus far in the cross-examination. The way he's playing this out. I said this previously that some of the important factors in here about what transpired that night at that house, that it was involving the love triangle and what happened at the bar that night. Okay. And today, as opposed to the last trial, you got all of these text messages that came in, because the last trial, those you didn't have nearly the amount of text messages. He made that sergeant read those text messages so that everybody could fully understand what was happening here between Karen and Higgins. Yeah. And that was masterful. And then right after that, he jumps into the video inside the bar and everything that was happening in there at that time.
Yeah. The eye kept for Salander. Thank you for the $2 super chat. I know exactly who this is. This is Gio from inventory at the warehouse. That's one of my one of the folks that I work with. So Gio, thank you for being here. Thank you for the super love. Thank you for the support. Sleuthy Goosey said something pretty interesting, Ed. And thank you, Sleuthy, for being here. She said, for crying out loud, we don't even know where John O'Keefe's body really was.
Right.
Now,
in crime scenes.
And I got to stop you because your audio sounds a little weird. So I'm going to.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. I see it. How's that? Better?
No.
No. Test.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. Is anybody hearing what I'm hearing? And maybe it's just on my end. It was just.
What are you hearing?
Yeah, it sounded like a little crunchy. Let's go to the chat and see if anybody says
test 1 2 1 2
audio. So just leave and then come back in, Ed. I don't want to kick you out. I just want you to leave and then come back. I'm going to play the rest of this video.
It was initially excavated.
The time where
let's listen to the big dummy testify a little bit here.
The 6 pieces of plastic fragments were found.
It was all located in the general vicinity where it was initially excavated, but also where I was told Mr. John O'Keefe was found.
Did you seek to actually document where each item was found? In other words, by cross coordinates or some other such manner?
The exact location where each item was recovered from was not documented with a picture or GPS.
Jackson.
Red's daughter sends in 5 and she says, he's not dumb. He just portrays that so he doesn't have to say he was wrong. He's arrogant and self-serving. He knows what to do, but won't admit it. I mean, I agree to some extent, but not fully, because he really showed how dumb he was by him not even understanding some basic terminology that Alan Jackson was asking of him. And Ed and I can go into that later on, but certain things that you would know that it just went right over his head. He did not understand basic terminology. So I think he is dumb, and there's many, many supervisors and detectives in all ranks that kind of slide by. And Ed, you and I, we know this from working in a really big police department. Massachusetts State Police, kind of big. It's not a small department, but Canton, small department, under 40 cops, including supervisors. And look, Lieutenant Gallagher was able to slide by for frickin' 32 years. And he got promotions after this debacle. And the lieutenant investigator in charge of the detectives got promoted to deputy chief. How do you not come out of your house when you got a dead cop on your neighbor's front lawn, right across the street from where you live? Ed,
you're a cop in your house and you got a dead guy on your lawn and you don't come out either.
Ryan Albert. And that's what makes everything stink. That's what makes this whole thing stink to high heavens. And when you look at everything as it's packaged up and as it's being presented in trial 1, we already saw it. Trial 2, now we're seeing other things happening. Learning about, Proctor deleting videos at John O'Keefe's home because it would be not in his best interest of his case. Remember, he said in the text chat group with his sister and his friends, I got to make this simple. I got to make it clear cut. All of these things, when you hear this, it just tells you that this thing stinks. That's all I'll say.
Continue to poke.
Go ahead, Ed.
You can't say the G word anymore.
Yeah.
It triggers me.
The documentation of the evidence and the chain of custody, who was in possession, who had access, and again, the involvement of former trooper Michael Proctor. And more text messages came into focus today, this time texts between Karen Reed and ATF agent Brian Higgins. He's one of the people the defense has argued could have been responsible for O'Keefe's death and was in the Albert home on the night in question. The texts, in the words of the defense, showed a sometimes flirtatious exchange.
You're hot. Are you serious or messing with me? No, I'm serious. Feeling is mutual.
In which Reed talks about the state of her relationship with John O'Keefe, referring to an incident on New Year's Eve.
I want to I hate to, this is not us to do this, but I'm M. Williams. Thank you for that message. The neighbors knew to mind their business. That is why no neighbors came out. Listen, it's not about the neighbors coming out. That was, early in the morning, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. It's about the detectives who are supposed to be doing door-to-door canvasses for 2 reasons. For one, to see if anybody heard or saw anything. 2, to get video footage, video canvases. There was no knocking or reports on paper of them going door-to-door and asking, sir, ma'am, did you hear a commotion? Did you hear a dog? Did you hear anybody scream? Did you hear a scuffle? Did you see this? None of that happened, Ed. And M. Williams, thank you for that comment. But this is basic detective skill 101. This is basic shit that when you become a detective and you start investigating, you knock on doors. You knock on the neighbors behind the Albert's home. You knock on neighbors next door by the flagpole. You go to the other side. You go across the street. None of that shit was done, Ed.
Yeah, and you interviewed the Alberts in their house. Do you know this man? Who is he? Did you, then they could find, what is he doing here? I mean, no, did anybody tell the police that night, Jen McCabe or anybody else, that we invited John O'Keefe over this house for a party, after drinking at the local watering hole? I mean, did they say, oh, he's an off-duty police officer? They didn't even say those things, okay?
And use the emergency exception rule. When you have a dead human being, and now this is a dead cop on the front of 34 Fairview, that lieutenant had the authority and could have invoked the emergency exception rule and say, hey, I need to come in your house because there's a dead guy on the front lawn. You're not telling me anything. You don't want to talk to me. You're not giving me shit. And I need to know if the perpetrator, that's the slang, perp is the slang word. If the perpetrator is in your home, in your basement, upstairs, hiding in a closet, we want to make sure that you're safe. And there would have been nothing wrong with that. There would have been nothing legally for anybody. Anybody could have challenged that. Alberts could have got an attorney and tried to sue the police department and it will go after Lieutenant Gallagher for that, but he would have been well within his rights. I would if I was there.
You said the G word again.
I'm sorry.
Slowly I turn.
Stop breathing down my neck.
So that didn't happen. Let's finish this and let's get back to business.
Eve.
Are you breaking up?
The documentation of the evidence and the chain of custody. Who was in possession? Who had access?
Oh my
and
God,
again,
this.
the involvement of former trooper Michael Proctor. And more text messages came into focus today. This time, texts between Karen Reed and ATF agent Brian Higgins. He's one of the people the defense has argued could have been responsible for O'Keefe's death and was in the Albert home on the night in question. The texts, in the words of the defense, showed a sometimes flirtatious exchange.
You're hot. Are you serious or messing with me? No, I'm serious. Feeling is mutual.
In which Reed talks about the state of her relationship with John O'Keefe, referring to an incident on New Year's Eve.
Are you breaking up or staying together? I don't know. He hooked up with another girl on vacation. I am very close to his niece. It is a very up situation.
The text referenced that Higgins and Reed kissed, with Reed eventually driving to Higgins' home on January 19th, but days later seeming to cut off the romantic interest. Then on the night in question, he sent her 2 more texts while they were in the same room at the Waterfall bar. She didn't respond. The defense says Higgins was upset at being ghosted by Reed. Later in court, Sgt Bukhenik was pressed on why they never got Higgins' phone.
Did you become aware of a call that was made by Brian Higgins at 1:35 a.m. while at Canton Police Department?
I am not aware of that, no. We never sought to get Brian Higgins' phone.
Even after you received and read all of those text messages between him and Karen Reed?
Correct.
He was shown video.
Why? Why wouldn't you try to get Brian Higgins' phone?
And what they got was a dump of his phone that Brian Higgins did at a federal facility that had the equipment to do that. He dumped his own phone for a specific time period and gave the report over to the sergeant here.
The feds look at this, man.
Can I just back up a little bit?
Yeah.
Remember when they showed you that that bag of evidence? Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going back to it. Yep.
Yeah. He says he didn't fill that out, but there's his name on it, right? And he said he didn't fill it. Then he said, I don't know whose handwriting it is. And then it got so bad that the AJ had to go get another document that was signed by his partner to show him, could it have been Proctor? And they did a side-by-side comparison, and finally the sergeant admits, well, it looks like Proctor's handwriting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then he doesn't know who he gave this to.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I'm just blown away that how are we even in this courtroom in front of this judge with all of these issues of the evidence?
It's insanity. Jay Stately said, I really loved AJ today. I love him every day because when he does the cross-examination, he goes at him like Pitbull. He goes at him like a pit bull, and he is relentless and very well prepared. He always has a backup plan. He is fighting all of the objections and getting the sustained objections from Judge Bev, Auntie Bev. She's not on his side. She's not, being fair and impartial is in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy, crazy thing. Hey guys, if you look on the chat, on the super chats, and I thank you guys all for the super chats. Ed and I put up a goal here tonight. If we hit that goal, Ed and I are going to take 2 live callers to call in and ask Ed forensic questions, ask myself and Ed any type of questions as it pertains to this case. And we want to just keep it on the topics of what we're speaking about, Bukhenik's testimony and this case. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but after we hit that goal, and we have, it's like a little timed goal. Once we hit it, we're going to do the call-ins, and I'm looking forward to doing that with you guys. We will get to all of the regular chats and the super chats and answer all the questions at the end, irregardless. Ed, let's let the rest of this play because we have a ton of stuff to play, and I've got a small clip from Microdot's channel that I just decided just a second that I want to play it. He or she uploaded some new videos tonight, and there's some short ones, there's some long ones, but I wanted to play the Waterfall bar only because in his version of this, it's super duper clear. We could see the faces, we could see the people, whereas when we saw in the court today, you know, it's being transmitted and retransmitted over like whatever the court uses. I don't know what they're using. Skype is shut down now, so whatever the court's using, it's really not that clear. So for those of you who are looking forward to seeing that and seeing us go over the Waterfall bar, courtesy of Microdots, and I'll link his or her channel in the description.
And that's another point. I don't understand why the prosecutor, who has the capabilities of enhancing these videos, hasn't enhanced the videos, other than the fact that they don't want to enhance the videos. They want to keep it fuzzy, because when you look at what AJ did today with the video of Karen backing out of the garage and hitting John's car, they first showed the one that was the actual one, and then they showed the enhanced one, and it's night and day. And the prosecutor could have done this too, but they chose to keep it all fuzzy and less clear.
Right. Yeah.
And even there, after showing Sergeant Yuriy there, how many the clear one, he still struggles to admit that there was a collision between these two cars.
It's insane.
But it finally got it out.
Yeah, and it was like pulling teeth. Alan Jackson is like a dentist in the courtroom. It's like pulling teeth to get an answer out of this guy.
Again, the involvement of former trooper Michael Proctor. And more text messages came into focus today, this time texts between Karen Reed and ATF agent Brian Higgins. He's one of the people the defense has argued could have been responsible for O'Keefe's death and was in the Albert home on the night in question. The texts, in the words of the defense, showed a sometimes flirtatious exchange.
You're hot. Are you serious or messing with me? No, I'm serious. Feeling is mutual.
In which Reed talks about the state of her relationship with John O'Keefe, referring to an incident on New Year's Eve.
Are you breaking up or staying together? I don't know. He hooked up with another girl on vacation. I am very close to his niece. It is a very up situation.
The text referenced that Higgins and Reed kissed, with Reed eventually driving to Higgins' home on January 19th, but days later seeming to cut off the romantic interest. Then on the night in question, he sent her 2 more texts while they were in the same room at the Waterfall bar. She didn't respond. The defense says Higgins was upset at being ghosted by Reed. Later in court, Sgt Bukhenik was pressed on why they never got Higgins' phone.
Did you become aware of a call that was made by Brian Higgins at 1:35 a.m. while at Canton Police Department?
I am not aware of that, no. We never sought to get Brian Higgins' phone.
Even after you received and read all of those text messages between him and Karen Reed?
Correct.
He was shown video of Reed's SUV seemingly hitting John O'Keefe's in the driveway of his home. Jackson asking the sergeant to clarify his testimony from last year.
Based on what you just saw in this video, do you believe that the SUV struck the Chevy Traverse?
Logically speaking, the 2 vehicles had to have come into contact for the tire to move.
And then the dog that's gotten so much attention.
Did you learn that the Albert family had gotten rid of the dog named Chloe?
We learned that they no longer care for the dog. I don't know if get rid of is accurate.
So it's no longer with him, right?
Correct. They no longer own the dog.
Okay, so they got rid of it.
Just another example of that contentious, often really laborious feeling back and forth between Jackson and Bukhenik. And we saw that all day. Glenn and JC, back to you.
All right, Melody, in that exchange that we just heard, we learned more about Chloe, Brian Albert's dog that was rehomed.
Yeah.
And we learned as well that Sgt Bukhenik traveled to see Chloe. What else did we learn about this sort of mysterious dog?
Okay, well, we now know that, yes, Sgt Bukhenik traveled to see the dog and its new owners. The dog now has been named Kora. We don't know much other than that. We know that it has since had 2 different owners since the Alberts. We know that.
I'm going to tell you guys why the dog was rehomed and is no longer available. Just look at the autopsy photos of John O'Keefe's arm. That's why that dog is not available. And it is clear and evident. It is clear as day why this dog is not. This is all part of this whole collusion of trying to get all of the evidence that shows other people were involved in the murder and death of police officer John O'Keefe. And if you can't see it, I don't know what to tell you. But I'll tell you this, Ed and I see it. And all of this stuff is not coincidental. All of these things disappearing, and videos and inverted videos and Ring video doorbell footage being deleted because it'll show that the defendant's vehicle did not have the damage that they said it had on it at particular times. All of it, everything that points to somebody other than Karen Reed, all of that evidence that points to it is being skewed. Thank you.
Absolutely, 100%.
On cross-examination,
Chloe, Brian Albert's dog that was rehomed.
Yeah.
And we learned as well that Sgt Bukhenik traveled to see Chloe. What else did we learn about this sort of mysterious dog?
okay, well, we now know that, yes, Sgt Bukhenik traveled to see the dog and its new owners. The dog now has been named Kora. We don't know much other than that. We know that it has since had 2 different owners since the Alberts. We know that based on cross-examination. We do know that he wrote a report about the dog, but left out the name of the new owners and left out the location of that family. The way Jackson set this up, we will certainly be hearing more and more about Chloe the dog in the trial as we move forward. Guys, back to you.
Melanie Mendez, thank you very much. Another week of testimony in Denham. Let's bring in the rest of our team now. We're joined by defense attorney Morgietta Derissiere and a juror. I
really want to hear this defense attorney because I heard her speak once before on the testimony on the trial thus far, and I liked what she said because she wasn't sugarcoating anything. So I didn't listen to this, but I just want to listen to what she has to say here. I hope she talks first.
From the first trial, Ronald Estanislao, it's good to have both of you with us tonight.
Let's start with a viewer question, okay? We want to go to Ashley in Boston, who says, what is the purpose of the defense having Sgt Bukhenik reading this long and awkward text thread between Karen and Brian Higgins? He doesn't have anything to do with their relationship, and if anything, it perhaps makes the jury forget about his testimony this morning and his reluctance to answer questions regarding Michael Proctor. Before we dive into this, let's give you a little bit of that. Brian Higgins, we're going to compare him reading those messages during the first trial versus Sgt Bukhenik doing the same thing today.
Defendant responded, "Do you like me?" I said, "Yes," from jump. Defendant said, "When was jump?" I said, "First time I saw you."
Do you like me? Yes, from jump. When was jump?
All right, Morgietta, so that question from the viewer is such a good one because, of course, Bukhenik didn't send any of those text messages, yet he had to read them all into evidence. Why not call Brian Higgins to do so, like we saw the prosecution do in the first trial? After all, the defense is accusing him of being a third-party culprit.
So remember that when we're dealing with the elements of a crime, one of the most important things that we have to show is consciousness of guilt. And we don't know right now whether or not Karen Reed is going to take the stand. So we need to hear her voice somehow throughout this trial. And when the text messages came in the first time around, they were cherry picked, if you guys remember. Mm-hmm. Now we're hearing all the messages in its full context from beginning to end. So this is a way to take away from the steam of the prosecution cherry picking and putting out the full context, which if you look at the text messages, at one point, Karen just is not interested. And it's really Brian Higgins who was like pursuing this relationship even more. So it takes away from this consciousness of guilt, that she had some anger towards John, and this was like some sort of like revenge, murder. And I think that was really effective today.
I will say, listening to it, when Brian Higgins is reading his own text, it was very flat, but we had, Sergeant Bukhenik put a little bit of his bedtime story spin on it with, inflection into the different.
What'd you say?
She said that this reporter is saying that when Sergeant Bukhenik was reading it today, it was much more exciting.
Yeah, it was more animated, in my opinion. It wasn't as monotone as Higgins reading it. He tried to change his voice between Higgins and Karen.
Right, I did catch on to that, but it was too much. It was too much, too long. And in the beginning, he was describing the emojis, and he was getting it all screwed up. So again, I didn't listen to it all, but yes, I saw that he was trying to make it like it was a conversation back and forth. Whereas when Higgins was asked to do it, he just was straight down the board. So Ed, let's talk a little bit about the dog and the rehoming. And we heard those words from Sergeant Bukhenik today. Correct me if I'm wrong. He used that exact verbiage, that the dog was rehomed, but it took a lot for Alan Jackson to get that out of him.
Right.
And it took a lot for Alan Jackson to get anything out of Sergeant Bukhenik. He was very combative on his answers. He was talking about, I don't know if this paper is certified. He was challenging Alan Jackson's authenticity of all of the documents that he brought forward in the court. And I haven't seen a sergeant do that in a long, long time. As a matter of fact, I couldn't even get that out of my memory of ever seeing someone say, well, I don't know, is this really a document? Like, where did you get this from? Like, he was basically accusing him of being a shyster. Your thoughts?
It's funny because a lot of the documents that AJ had were from discovery. He got it from the prosecutors. In fact, at one point during these stupid pissing matches between the sergeant and AJ, initiated by the sergeant over documents, he went to the prosecutor and got the prosecutor to stipulate that these are true and accurate documents and moved it in that way.
Right.
I mean, it's really stupid. The pettiness of the sergeant and what he was doing. Where do you think I got these documents from? I got them from Discovery. Okay, and his report about the dog, he doesn't give dates, time of the new name of the dog. We don't know exactly the dates and times this dog transferred ownership to all the players here, and now the final owner is a vet. And then they brought his PhD doctor, quote unquote, canine psychologist, expert from Florida, who's coming up here. And I don't know what this guy is going to do. Is he going to do a mental health on the dog here? Or because he's said to have casted his teeth or to take a dental casting of the dog's teeth.
Wow.
According to what I see on this guy's the information I found on this guy, that seems to be out of his bailiwick. And, and we know that, at least I know that, in forensic odontology of comparing teeth denture to bite marks on skin has been debunked. We can no longer use it in courts in the United States. So we can't do bite mark impressions in skin from denture. Okay, we can do it in other objects like food, like a fruit, an apple, or something like that. We can do that, but we can no longer do it in skin. So if he's going to try to do that, I'm sure he's not a board certified odontologist. So, and I don't know what Judge Bev is going to do. She's so unfreaking predictable because none of this other evidence or this trial should be here in the first place. But she said, oh, you could go, no chain of custody, good. No sketch, good. No measurements of the evidence, good. No photos of the evidence, no worries. Okay? They're going to come in and he's going to say he's going to compare the casting of the dog. So, and right away when I'm thinking he casted that dog's a biter. He's bit several people and several other dogs. So then it dawned on me, he's a PhD. Oh, he doesn't have the ability to get medications and anesthetize the dog to knock it out to do that. Then I realized the new owner is a vet. Yeah. The vet could have done it. knock the dog out so that he could cast the teeth.
Ed, we're going to get to the super chats in about it's 40 minutes. We're going to get to the super chats at the 1 hour mark. So those of you who are sending the super chats, hang on, hang here, because we're going to answer them all out. And we're going to also take questions from the live chat. And if we get to that goal, we're getting there. When we get to the goal, we will take 2 live callers. And, again, you're going to have to engage your video, your camera, engage your audio. We have to see who you are. And we're going to have 2 live questions. And I think that'll be interesting. You can ask forensic questions of Ed. I want to go to Bukhenik's testimony, where he actually asks Alan Jackson to get a Webster dictionary out. This blew my mind when I watched it back on the replay. And he was talking about the plastic pieces, where they were collected, and the general vicinity. And the reason I want to play this, Ed, is because I want you, after he talks about how he collected them and how he tries to justify that they were just in this generalized area of, 20 square feet, or however he described it, how ridiculous that really was, and how stupid that made him look as a homicide detective sergeant for the Massachusetts State Police. And I hope after this trial or his testimony is over, that his bosses do something about this guy, because he, in my opinion, is not helpful as it pertains to any investigations. And I would want to go one step further and look at all of the investigations, not just only Michael Proctor, but all of his investigators, those 4 in that squad. We have their names. Every single case that they've ever worked on should be looked at. What do you think, Ed?
Oh, 100%.
Because these guys are incompetent. This is them proving in trial testimony that they are incompetent. Whether they're doing it on purpose, whether they're trying to do something to cover this ridiculousness up, whatever the meaning is behind this guy is coming off as a big dummy.
Well, I think we need to back up a little bit and then widen our view. Here's our choices with what's going on here. Incompetency, 1, 2, corruption, or 3, incompetency and corruption.
I say 3.
Okay. So yeah, that's where I'm going. Okay. To hold on to that evidence for that length of time before getting to the laboratory. The clothing from the hospital. I understand they called out the crime scene team to go to the hospital to photograph John. And I don't know if it was just a forensic photographer or an actual CSI. And if there was an actual CSI there, then why didn't they let the CSI do what I showed yesterday with the clothing and search it for hairs and fibers and package it correctly and take it directly to the lab from the hospital, instead of these guys just picking the thing up? They probably didn't change their gloves because they picked up the 2 items and put it in the same bag, which they shouldn't have done. None of what they did, they should have done. And then what happened to John's socks? Because, if he has that habit of taking his shoes off, and those socks could be filled with dog hair.
Yeah, and if he does it in his own home, he's doing it where he goes. Like I have a friend who comes over all the time, and the first thing he does is take his shoes off. We don't require people to take their shoes off. We like if they do it, but it's not like, hey, you got to take your shoes off. But again,
in my house, I have an Asian household, so my wife demands everybody take their shoes off.
But when I came in, I didn't take them off.
No,
I'm only kidding. I did.
She put you on a list. You don't want to be on that list.
All right, here we go. I sped this up, I think, a little bit so we can get through it. So it's not like watching paint dry. But let's listen to Sergeant Bukhenik try to sidestep all of the questions and simple yes or no answers. He couldn't answer yes or no to them. And Alan Jackson said before he asked the question, this is a yes or no answer. And oh, for fuck's sake, he just couldn't do it.
Impact at 34 Fairley, correct?
I don't understand what you're asking.
You would agree with that? So we're talking about a relatively broad area for small pieces of physical evidence to be found. You would agree with that?
I would, again, estimate it was the general area, maybe 10 feet in one direction, 10 feet in another, and 5 feet out, maybe 3 feet out. They were the general area where it was initially excavated and then expanded with the snow melting, and all the pieces were within that general area.
But you were working on an assumption at that point, on an assumption that there was some sort of an impact at 34 Fairview, correct?
I don't understand what you're asking.
You were working on an assumption or presumption that there was an impact of a physical item, in your view, an SUV, with a human being, correct? That was your presumption at the time.
The evidence was pointing that impact took place because there was damage to the taillight. Large chunks of it was missing. And we were locating pieces that were consistent with texture, color, and size fragments from that SUV on the lawn. So I wasn't assuming anything. The evidence was speaking to us.
You weren't there, correct?
I was there recovering the evidence, yes.
You weren't there at the time of the incident.
No, of course not.
So you were utilizing.
See that little thing he does, Ed, when he answered that, when he said, no, of course not. He's kind of, did anyone catch on to that? He was doing that a lot today. He was like, no, of course not. That little like shrug of the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this gets you enraged, so that's why I'm not going to stop and ask you everything. But at the end of this, I want you to
let it play. Let it play.
I want to let it play.
Assumptions and presumptions based on information that is provided to you. Yes or no?
We work by learning information, collecting evidence, and getting that evidence to suggest what happened. That evidence is tested, and then it's all put together into the case.
Use the word to suggest what happened, correct?
Yes.
Another word for a suggestion is if something is suggested to you, you then receive it and assume certain things based on that suggestion.
What we do with suggestions, we corroborate them. A witness statement is, I guess you can say, a suggestion, and then we corroborate it through evidence.
And of course, you make assumptions based on those suggestions, correct? Yes or no?
We have theories.
Another term for a theory.
Ed?
Yeah, hold on. They said the evidence was speaking to him. No, the evidence wasn't speaking to you. Jen McCabe was speaking to you. Albert, the Alberts were speaking to you. Okay, and those three interviews told you what to go do. Okay, and so right away, your theory about the cocktail glass crashed into the head, that went out the window, and you focused. You put the blinders on, and you focused on an accident. But you went over there, and you seized the car, and you seized the phone without a warrant. At this time, there was no plastic taillight recovered. After several searches, when there was far less snow on the scene, at the time of John's body being discovered on that lawn, with all those emergency responders walking around their vehicles in that front yard of the Alberts, nobody saw any of these lenses, these broken plastics, right? And look at the size of these pieces. They're not small, 6 inches, 7 inches in length, okay? They weren't found, were they? Even when Mr. Leaf Blower was out there doing his magic, destroying the crime scene, he didn't find it, okay? And it spread all over the lawn, not near where the body was found, if that's your theory, that John was hit by the car and his body was thrown there.
Amazing. Amazing. Let's listen to more. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Sue, Sleuthy, and the whole crew. You guys are awesome. We know Sleuthy Goosey. She keeps copious notes of her own, and she's on this and many other cases.
Is it an assumption or presumption? Correct.
I guess in some respect you can say that,
Okay.
but I'm not going to argue about semantics here.
Well, you'll agree that words matter, right? I mean, you're testifying, so words do matter.
Words do matter. That's important.
So working off of your, as you put it, your theory, you theorized that there was an impact spot at 34th here, correct?
Based on the statement I hit him, I assumed that Mr. O'Keefe was impacted with something. Initial hours of the investigation, we had those statements, I hit him. We had the statements that, oh my God, did I hit him? So utilizing that information with the evidence at that point that we had was a broken cocktail glass. So a theory would be, why is the cocktail glass broken? Because it came into contact with the victim. So that's why my information communicated to the ME's office was a possible domestic involving a glass strike to the victim. As a result, we had to go and see the victim's body and the injuries. So Mr. O'Keefe's injuries presented a certain way, and we learned more information. So the more information that comes in, the more information that we are able to corroborate statements and collect evidence that further corroborates other information is helpful in the investigation. That's how investigations develop. If we knew everything we knew from day one, there wouldn't be a process of developing investigation.
So the answer to my question, Sergeant, is you were working off of a theory, correct? Yes or no?
We were working off a report of an injured male party, and then we developed the information, collected the evidence, and developed the investigation.
Do you know what the word theory means?
I'm sorry, English is like a third language for me. So if you can bring up the Webster's Dictionary, I can read it out.
You want to pull up the Webster's Dictionary? You want to take a break real quick and pull up the Webster's Dictionary to define a word that you used in an answer about 40 seconds ago? We're working off of a theory, quote unquote. You said.
Wow. Amazing.
He doesn't know the difference between a theory and a hypothesis, and whatever.
Let's hear it one more time. Let's hear it one more time, and then we'll go from there. We'll move on.
It's other information is helpful in the investigation. That's how investigations develop. If we knew everything we knew from day one, there wouldn't be a process of developing investigation.
So the answer to my question is you were working off of a theory, correct? Yes or no?
We were working off a report of an injured male party, and then we developed the information, collected the evidence, and developed the investigation.
Do you know what the word theory means?
I'm sorry, English is like a third language for me. So if you can bring up the Webster's Dictionary, I can read it out.
You want to pull up the Webster's Dictionary? You want to take a break real quick and pull up the Webster's Dictionary to define a word that you used in an answer about 40 seconds ago? We're working off of a theory, quote unquote. You said it, not me. You want me to go get a dictionary so we can figure out for the jurors what that word means?
Objection.
All right, sustained. Let's move on.
Dev to the rescue. Sustained. Let's move on. Ed, your thoughts.
She's not a judge. She's a lifeguard. Okay, she's the prosecution's lifeguard, right? She's like a ballistic vest for the prosecution. My God, you know, I mean, he used the word theory numerous times throughout his prosecution direct testimony and this testimony. Okay, look, Ron, how many times have you and I interviewed witnesses and they didn't tell us the truth?
A lot. A lot.
Well, witnesses always tell us the truth, right, folks? You know, we're just local law enforcement. You know, we don't have that CFR 1001 that the feds have, where if you lie to the feds, it's a crime. We don't have that.
Yeah.
You lie to me, I can't do much about it unless, you know, there's something else associated with the lie. Okay.
Yeah. I want to pull up the Waterfall bar video, because I mean, we saw it 10, 11 months ago, close to a year ago. I believe the trial, the first trial was. We saw it then. We're going to see it again now. They played it. You know, Microdots, he has a very, very fine-tuned, clear. We watched it in the debrief before we went live. He has a very clear image of the video, but obviously he gives his commentary. It's his channel. It's his video. I'm going to link his channel in the description. He has a ton of stuff, but I want to play this for the clarity, and also you guys have to take this as this is not what our. I mean, we agree with a lot of it, but again, some of it is his own opinion, and I think it's one of the best clarity videos from the Waterfall, at least that I've seen so far, right, Ed? I mean, have you seen anything clearer than this?
No, and I'm wondering again, why didn't the prosecution have these videos enhanced? They had the technology; it's there. If they couldn't get it from them, damn well the FBI did it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the capability and the technology is there. So kudos to Microdot. Again, and I'll link his description to his channel in the description. I'm hoping he doesn't mind that we're playing this. Guys, go over and subscribe to his channel and check out his stuff. So let's listen.
In the Reed case, there exists a rare and invaluable piece of evidence. The Waterfall video. A 75-minute continuous recording capturing the victim and the small group of people he interacted with before suffering fatal injuries. Rather than analyze its contents fully, investigators treated it as little more than a tool to tally Karen's drinks. Had they truly wanted to solve the crime, they would have done exactly what we are about to do. Belongings. They at the Waterfall bar. The Albert and McCabe party decide it's time to leave. They gather their belongings and start moving towards the door. Chris Albert is being playful with Jen McCabe, hiding her jacket behind his back. He hugs his niece Caitlin goodbye, since he is not attending the after party. John is facing the bar, attending to the check. Karen is engaged in conversation with Karina. Karina and husband Nick have remained supportive of her innocence since the beginning. On the date this occurred, they had known both John and the McCabes for years. As Brian Albert, his brother, Selectman Chris Albert, and ATF agent Brian Higgins move towards the exit, an interesting exchange occurs. We will watch the next 20 seconds uninterrupted, then break it down frame by frame.
That's Chris Albert that grabbed Brian Higgins.
Yes.
And the other one with the wool cap is
Let's
Brian.
watch again, looking closer,
Brian
and
Albert.
determine what exactly is happening. Brian Higgins is looking in John's direction. Chris Albert says something to sister-in-law, Nicole, as she steps towards the door. Daughter Caitlin Albert is closest to the exit. Brian Albert enters frame right. Brian and Nicole continue. We see Higgins focused, like a laser beam on John. And Chris Albert's attention has now shifted directly onto Higgins, appearing to sense what he is about to do. Higgins goes to raise his arm and shout to the victim, but before he can even bring it above his waist, Chris Albert aggressively grabs his forearm, preventing it from happening. The significance of Chris Albert's actions cannot be overstated. They reveal clear prior knowledge, an unmistakable anticipation of hostility directed towards John. There is simply no other valid way to explain how Chris would know what Higgins was about to do before he did it. I'm not suggesting anyone intended to kill John, only that there had to have been prior discussion, if not some form of coordinated plan to confront him. Now, we can operate under the assumption that these three men know something about John's future that we do not. Chris grabs Higgins by the arm, turning him back around to face him directly. This unexpected outburst from his brother catches Brian's attention. And Higgins, whipping his head toward Chris, seems just as taken aback by the sudden hostility as we are. Notice that Chris is grasping Higgins' shirt so tightly that you can see tension in the fabric. and as much tension on his face. Chris pushes Higgins' arm down to his side. He fixes him with a hard, unflinching stare. Chris releases his grip. Higgins turns his head toward Brian, deferring to his authority and seeking his approval. But Chris steps squarely in front of Higgins and puts both of his hands on him again. Higgins is rattled. Brian raises his palms facing upward, a universal gesture of confusion, questioning Chris's protest. Higgins continues to fix his gaze on John, peering over Chris's right shoulder. Meanwhile, Chris stands in a posture strikingly similar to that of a bouncer stepping in to defuse a confrontation. Higgins steps back and shifts his focus again to Chris, prompting Chris to release his grip on Higgins' left arm for the second time. Higgins stares blankly. The two men exchange a few words as Chris gestures towards the exit. Chris is trying to assert control over the situation. However, both men turn their attention to Brian Albert as he intervenes. Brian challenges Chris's position with his voice and body, causing Chris to throw up his arms in frustration. There's clearly a disagreement between the Albert brothers. It appears that Chris either disapproved of Higgins confronting John altogether, or he was uncomfortable with him doing it so publicly. I lean towards the latter. Ultimately, however, it is Brian who holds authority and makes the final decisions. Chris is overruled by his older brother. Higgins has the green light and is allowed to continue. Chris submits, but is still clearly on edge. As the brothers settle the matter with a few final words, Higgins presses on, shifting his focus back to John.
That's the link to Microdot's channel right there. Thank you, Black Rose, for putting it in the chat. We'll also link it in the description of this video in about 10 minutes after we're done with the live stream.
Even with reduced resolution and a tight zoom, Higgins' agitation is unmistakable. He appears to be incensed, clearly gesturing, "Let's go." He briefly makes eye contact with Brian Albert, puts his hand to his forehead. Chris guides Higgins towards the door, touching his back, using his body as a physical barrier. But Higgins isn't done. Chris watches him closely. Higgins remains preoccupied with John, while Chris maintains a stance resembling someone preventing a confrontation. Pay close attention to the next sequence of frames. You'll see Chris appear to say something to Higgins, likely a command such as "go" or "okay." In response, Higgins shows clear defiance, stepping past Chris and openly calling out to John in full view of everyone. Here we go. Chris speaks and puts his hand on Higgins' back to guide him out for the second time. Now, Higgins will react defiantly, ignore Chris, step past him, and attempt to get John's attention vocally, and by waving and pointing. Higgins defies Chris's instruction to get going. Chris is not happy with this. His stare is ice cold and locked on Higgins. Higgins sidesteps Chris and is animated. Then Chris turns to look at John to see what his reaction is. But John, still dealing with paying his tab, has seen nothing. Not yet.
And you didn't say goodbye to John. Right?
I don't think I said goodbye to anybody.
And you didn't talk to him about coming in.
No.
Neither Brian Higgins, Chris Albert, or Brian Albert ever acknowledged what we are seeing with our own eyes. Now, picking up exactly where we left off, there's a few things that happen worth pointing out. First, we'll focus on Higgins. Let's watch it at normal speed, then take it frame by frame. And we'll sync it with a close-up of John to gauge his reaction. Now is a crucial moment to remind you, it's 11:58 p.m. In about 30 minutes, John will be fatally injured. Cue the tape. In 3, 2, 1. Let's watch it again.
The reason I wanted to play this is right here. Is you couldn't see this in court today. When they presented this, the jury, there's no way that they were able to see it with this clarity like this. And like you said, why didn't the FBI or somebody from the Massachusetts State Police try to enhance that video to make it clear like this?
They didn't want to make it clear.
Exactly. That's why I asked the question.
Slow it down and look a wee bit closer. Higgins is desperately trying to get John's attention, but John still has his back turned. By the time John turns to look, Higgins has shifted his gaze to Brian Albert, likely pointing at Brian while telling John to go to his home at 34 Fairview Road. Then, as Higgins turns back toward John, he sees that John has already looked away, prompting Higgins to abort the next hand gesture he was just about to make. Higgins looks and sees members of the band carrying equipment out, then steps back to give them space to pass. Then, he finally makes direct eye contact with John. He points outside, telling John to come to Brian Albert's home. His posture rigid, and each motion he makes is laced with tension.
Like, I was reading a little bit from that just to kind of like give some different thoughts. It almost to me seemed like Brian Higgins was saying, come outside, I'll kick your ass, or come outside. That was like, Ed, I don't know, what was your take of this right here? And I'm going to back it up just a little bit. It almost seemed like he was telling him, come outside, you know?
Oh, but he did text him, are you coming?
Yeah,
are you coming? So he wanted them to come to the Albert's house. And then when when Karen goes outside, Jen McCabe comes up to Karen and tries to separate them. Karen, you come with me, and the boys will go together.
Yeah. It almost seemed like here when he was, and I'm looking also at John O'Keefe, police officer John O'Keefe's reaction to it. It almost appears to me like Brian Higgins is saying, come outside, and we'll settle this outside. And he didn't. So, there may be a chance that he was saying, oh, are you coming to the Alberts house? But I think more so it was like him challenging him, come outside, I'll fucking kick your ass. You know how many times we've seen that in bars amongst cops where they have a disagreement, and now we have the knowledge that he was in this little, texting chat weeks leading up and days leading up to this thing with Karen Reed.
Even in the bar, the text records show that he's texting Karen Reed while they're in the bar.
Yep.
And she's ignoring him. She's not answering him. Now he's drunk. You see the little roughhousing that he was doing before.
Yes.
All right. Okay. It's all this, bullshit machismo and drinking and, and
yeah, look.
this.
And John's reaction,
Mm-hmm.
He's obvious that there is no friendship between the two of them at that point on that night. He's looking to, or has already had, some type of relations with her. We know that there was the kiss and so forth. So, John didn't look angry. He looked like he was laughing at him. Look, you could see it in his face there. I don't want to play the whole thing because it's over 23 minutes, but I think that was enough for us to see. And I want to say thank you to Microdots. I'll link his channel in the description. The mods, you can put a link up there again. Ed, we're over an hour already. The time goes by so quickly. But I wanted to get to you on any forensics that you took away. I know you listened to all the testimony. I didn't have the opportunity. It was a busy day at work. I listened back, but I wanted to go to you as a forensic, expert. Anything that Bukhenik talked about, taillights, anything that stands out to you? We talked about the lack of interviews with any of the people on that block and many, many other people that should have been interviewed. But anything that you had to take away from?
Do you remember my cousin Vinny in the opening arguments and Joe Joe Pesci gets up.
These youths.
No, not that part. But Joe Pesci gets up and he says the first words out of him: "Everything that guy just said is bullshit."
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty much the way I feel about what he's saying and what he's doing. Okay. So, I can't say it enough. You know what I would really like? I would like the defense to call the crime scene investigators that were at the hospital, or to call the crime scene investigators that allegedly came to the Albert's house for, I think, at least one visit, that they brought them out, and interview them and see what conversations transpired between the sergeant, Proctor, and them.
Yeah.
Okay. What were they told? Why didn't they collect the evidence? Why didn't they laser scan the front yard? Why didn't they photograph the clothing and check the clothing in the field for hairs and fibers and package it up? Why didn't they take possession of the clothing and take it to the laboratory directly? What is going on here? Why did they deviate from all of the standards and protocols that we use for the preservation of the evidence and the chain of custody? He obviously doesn't, English is his third language, but he obviously doesn't understand what a chain of custody is. He doesn't understand what an evidence log is. No detective in the New York City Police Department can go over a year and a half without producing a report on an interview they did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's got a supervisor too, right? Was that lieutenant that was his supervisor, right? We know Tully is his supervisor, right? Did he take a hit for failure to supervise the sergeant here?
Lieutenant Tully should definitely take a hit, and the commanding officer of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. Now, people, Ed, I want to clarify something. These Massachusetts state troopers, and the detectives and the supervisors, they all work for the Massachusetts State Police. They are assigned to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. They're not employed by the DA. The DA has their own investigators, their own detectives. They are working in a unit, a specialty unit, the homicide unit, that works out of that Norfolk County's District Attorney's Office. And some people are confused, like, oh, well, they're working for them. They have control over them. They're separate entities that are working within that office, but are not being told what to do by the DA. They're not being told what to do. The DA is there for them to write up their search warrants, write up, get their cases, look over their cases. Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know how this goes. We had it in the NYPD where guys worked in the DA squad.
Yeah. My wife, after she retired, she worked for the Staten Island District Attorney Squad. Okay. Right. She worked there for 18 years after she retired.
Let's listen to a little bit of this, because I think this is a little bit up your alley, because I saw some reports and some diagrams.
Sergeant, that's a 2-page document. Could you familiarize yourself with those 2 pages, please, and let me know when you're finished?
Come on, Sergeant. Come on.
What the hell was that?
I'm speeding it up.
No, I heard something.
Okay, thank you. Sir, what do those 2 pages purport to reflect? What are they pictures of? Just generally, an evidence bag, something else?
The first one's an evidence bag with some.
Tell me the date, just so we can date the date of that collection according to that.
On the bag, the date is 2/11/22.
Okay,
On the sticker, there's another date. There's a sticker March 9th of 22. There's also a date at the.
I'm just interested in the 2 pages, just generally. I need to mark it correct. What's the second page?
Second page is a large piece of red and black taillight plastic cover, and it's identified by a lab number, I believe. With
Introduces next one A and B.
Is there any objection from the Commonwealth?
no objection.
Okay.
At the bottom.
Yes.
If we could have the full screen, please. Okay. You also indicated that there was a label up at the top, correct?
Yes.
All right. If we could go to the second page, it'd be page B of this. Can you look at first of all, look at the bottom and tell me if that number designator appears to be the same as on the evidence, as on the previous page?
The limbs or the item number? The item number is 715.
Okay. And that comports with what we just saw in the previous page, correct?
That is the same number.
All right. This would be an exemplar, one of the items in that evidence bag labeled 715, correct? There are several items, but this is one of them. Is that right? That's how the crime lab keeps them separate?
I believe so. I don't know their procedures. I believe so. I know they use alphanumeric identifiers. As I can't testify to their procedures, why they do it, how they do it, or the sequence in which, or the choice in numbers or letters. I have no idea about any of that.
How do you work in the homicide unit and you don't know how the crime scene unit labels? Like,
well, this isn't the crime scene unit. This is the lab intake.
Oh, the lab. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's never dealt with the lab before?
Right. And again, right away we hear there's multiple pieces of plastic like this all in one bag when they should have all been individually packaged. You don't want them shaking around and rubbing on each other inside the bag.
Putting that aside, how does the sergeant not know what the procedure is of the lab? That in itself is a red flag to me, because if you are a seasoned veteran, I get that he just came on the job and just got in this position, but he's not a rookie. He should know exactly how the lab works, functions, and operates. Is this your first case, guy? Is this the first case you ever been a part of?
You see the size of that piece?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, folks, I want you to take a good look. Ron, can you take your mouse and just go around the perimeter of all those edges? If you microscopically examine these edges from the side, okay, not in this view, if you were to take that and flip it so that all you're looking at is the edge, under the microscope, there are going to be fracture lines that indicate the direction of force, so that a microscopic analysis of this could tell you whether this was pushed into the housing of the light or somebody reached in and pulled it out of the rest of the plastic.
Yeah, there's another piece there.
Same with this.
Yeah.
All of this. And apparently none of that was done.
None of it was done. It's just amazing. Ed, let's, I mean, again, this is a whole full day of Sergeant Bukhenik trying to avoid, answering questions, simple yes or no questions. He was making a big issue out of it. There was a sidebar that he came back from, and everybody came back into the courtroom, and it was there was a noticeable difference in his demeanor. I don't know if the DA talked to him or the judge and the DA. I think they just said, hey, look, just answer the questions. We want to get through the day. Stop being so combative, or whatever the case may be. But he was definitely spoken to. And anybody else in the chat noticed once that sidebar took place, and I think it was somewhere here. It was right here.
Well, you know what? The prosecutor is not allowed to do that.
No,
he's not supposed to be speaking to anybody because he's still under oath during the breaks. They're not supposed to be telling him how to do anything.
The judge probably told him, look, we want to get through the day, and you're making this difficult. But look, so many people in the chat. This is such a common thing that comes up. Ed, DutyRon, Ed needs to go be a witness for the defense. Tell this person why you can't do that.
Well, first of all, if I ever did go, first of all, Judge Bev wouldn't allow me to come there because she is a lifeguard. She's not a judge. She's there to protect the Commonwealth. She's there to protect the prosecutor. Okay. And if I did get in, she'd throw me in contempt so fast I'd be in jail up there.
Right. And, you know, and what I was meaning about the conversation, when they have the sidebar, everybody's involved in the conversation. So maybe it was the judge, it probably was the judge that said, hey, look, we want to just get through this. There was something said to him that made him make a considerable change in his attitude, but then it slowly went back to that arrogance and all that bullshit. But it is what it is. Let me go to some of the super chats, and let me turn my phone on so I could see what's happening in the chat. Ed, you see anything that jumps out in the chat while I look for something here?
I'm looking. You know,
a ton of super chats to answer out, and a ton of questions in the regular chat. So we want to get to all of that, and we don't want to hold everybody up on a Friday night because I know everybody's got things to do. Oh, and Mother's Day is coming, right? Sunday is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day in advance to all the great moms out there. To everybody on Sunday, I'm wishing you guys a great, peaceful, happy Mother's Day. Much love from DutyRon and Ed to all the moms out there, the great ones. All right, we made 26 out of 50, so that's pretty damn good on the super chats. Let's fire up some of the starred messages, and I think I ended off right here. Where is it? Oh, Aussie J. Oh, wow. No, I didn't end up there. Here we go. Oh, wow. Ed, we got a lot of work to do here.
what's this we stuff? You starting to speak French now?
You and I. Cat Tracking gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much for that. Linda, $5 super chat. Alan Jackson nailed him down today. The bar scene, in my opinion, is the smoking gun. God bless the true men in blue. Thank you, Linda, for that. Much appreciated. The TRH 51, $5. Glad to see some officers speaking out. It restores my faith. Restores my faith somewhat. We only got him somewhat. My background is in computer forensics, and this trial is a major cringe fest. Hey, send me a message on DutyRon.com because I'd love to talk to you about computer forensics if you care to. I mean, there's no pressure. You don't have to. But I'd love to talk to you about your experience in computer forensics. It's always a great conversation to have. Nope sends in 5. Police have knocked for my ring footage over a baseball hoop getting hit. Handed my video over for so many minor things. Every door gets knocked on. Absolutely.
It's called a canvas. We refer to it as shaking hands with doorknobs.
Exactly. Gumshoe work where you're pounding the pavement and going door to door and asking people, hey, did you see anything? Hey, did you see anything? Okay. 33 Fairview? Nope. 32 Fairview? Nope. You know, it's simple stuff. Simple stuff. What are you laughing at, Ed?
You know, I mean, because there's been a lot of excuses here by, it was a nor'easter, it was a blizzard, it was a nor'easter, it was a blizzard, as if I never worked a crime scene in any of those conditions. But you know what I keep thinking of is that video you showed. I got to get the milk. I got to get the bread. I got to get the milk. I got to get the bread.
I got hit with a copyright strike for showing that. EW, thank you for the 5. Would you expect to find the taillight parts spread out over a wide space after the snow melts? Question mark. Wouldn't it all be in a small area? Ed?
At the site of the impact, the alleged impact, but there was no impact. The crash daddies already said didn't happen. Science don't lie, folks. People lie. Witnesses lie. Okay.
Yeah. Cat Lady's $5 super chat. She says Turtle Boy said last night that the Commonwealth isn't calling Brian and Colin Albert, Higgins, Tully, Matt McCabe, and the medical examiner. How will they get away with that? Well, if the Commonwealth doesn't call all these witnesses, the defense can, right?
That's correct.
And if they feel it's necessary to call these witnesses, including disgraced former trooper Michael Proctor, they can do it.
Well, see, they use Sergeant Yuriy here, to put in what Proctor put in the last trial.
Right. Right.
And also they're now even the defense is using him to put in what Higgins put in the last trial.
Yeah, correct. Glow T, thank you for the super chat, and thank you for the excellent program message. We appreciate you. And without great viewers like yourself and many, many others, we wouldn't be here. Barb RN, thank you for your service in the past, for being an RN. We love you. We appreciate you. And thank you so much. Bukhenik said to AJ, "Are you listening to me?" AJ replied, "I know the answers to my questions." That was the best. Yeah, all attorneys know the answers. I remember that. Yeah, that was great. That was great. Yep. Cat tracking, thank you for the 5. She says, "I think Chloe is buried under the new concrete of the base of the home. You can't identify the dog if it doesn't have a chip." Yeah, and that dog didn't have a chip, correct?
Right, and if you don't have any exemplars of the DNA prior to, that's not going to help you either.
Yep. Rhymes with Shy, thank you for the 10. Hank Brennan filed a 36-page suppression motion to try and keep out the veterinarian records. AJ confronted Yuriy with that today. Yes, I think we talked about that. Total corruption at play by the DA's office. We're seeing it live on national television every day. Mama She 13, thank you for gifting those 5 memberships. Look, it's Jeff, our good friend. He wants us out in Wyoming. He wants us to visit. Sends in 5 and says the coverage both of you are doing is exactly why we watch. The amount of information and knowledge is priceless. Thank you, gentlemen. Jeff, we appreciate it. We try to stick to the plan and everything that I have written out, but so many things pop up and there's so many moving parts to this thing. We can never get everything that we want to talk about in every show, but we try to capture as much as we can in most of these shows. So thank you for that. And there's so much more to talk about. That is for sure. Song Bits Laura, thank you for the 5. Thank you for your show this week. Really am enjoying it. Yeah, we've been on every day this week, Ed, right? Almost every day this week. And so it's not normal for us to do multiple shows, multiple days, but the forensics is why we do these shows. Is Ed's forensic expertise can give you guys and give all of us an insight look into how it should be done properly. And last night with Ed all Tyvek suited up with his crime scene unit vest, that was priceless. And the information that he handed out to all of us was lesson 101. And here we go. It's happening. The stop and shop. Where's the one that's cut out? Or is that the other side of that has the cutout? There it is. Wow. Thank you, Kate. K8, thank you for gifting 20 memberships. Much appreciated. You're very generous. And we appreciate it.
It's not bad boys now. It's bag boys.
Bag boys. Austin Pro Courier and wait a minute. Where did it go? Love you guys. Thank you for your honesty. 1 and 1 and 1. Thank you for participating in the chat. We appreciate you. And thank you for the super chat. Evie 323, mom of the history chick. All the Commonwealth had to do was dismiss this bogus case, and they could have avoided showcasing to the entire world their gross incompetence. Egos are bigger than common sense in Norfolk County. I agree wholeheartedly. But this is an eye-opener. The whole world is watching. It's just not the United States. This is international. Let us know where you're watching, city, state, country. And just to make my point, it's international. DL sends in a super chat, 199. I'm a Marine. We learn how to plot coordinates.
Especially if you're asking for artillery, right? If you're looking for a fire support mission. Yeah, you got to know where to send the bombs.
Yeah. Karen S 923 sends in a 2. Thank you. I don't believe they even proved this dog is Chloe. Can't believe anything that these people are telling us, Trophy Wife thanks you for the 5. I'm so glad had this Putz Bukhenik read Higgins text. The second-hand embarrassments to have to read this. Yeah. It's a big time embarrassment.
To bring up Chloe again, now that the prosecution has had access to Chloe,
frozen time.
The defense
You're
should
back.
have. Okay, what happened?
You froze.
Okay, what I've said. Now that the prosecution has admitted that they have access to the dog, the defense should have access to the dog.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. 100%. Aussie J, thank you for the 2. Thank you for your valuable commentary, DutyRon and Ed. We appreciate our Aussie friends. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Put another prawn on the Barbie. Is that wrong to say that, Ed? Thank you. Thanks. Kevin L., thank you for becoming a new member. Mama She 13, thank you for the 10. Came in late, so I'm way behind, but I have to say I love you and Ed so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Man, we love you.
Hey, our Aussie friend there, send Ron some Vegemite.
Vita Vita Measurement. KH, thank you for the 5. If found not guilty, can Karen Reed sue the state for malicious prosecution? Slander, malicious prosecution. Definitely.
Maybe.
I think so. I think she
I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
We have to ask one. We know plenty of them.
We'd have to ask Attorney Melanie Little about that, because I'm sure that she can, and I'm sure she could have a civil suit and all kinds of goodness. Sando Rocks, thanks for the 5. Thank you for your common sense thoughts. Much appreciated. Thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate your support. Ed and I really appreciate it. Carter, thanks for the 5. There is a point in this testimony where he recalled the weather, but couldn't recall anything else, it seemed. And he names Proctor last. There's certain things that he was very, very clear with. And there was the important things, like his own executive, administrative position type duties that a sergeant would do, that he was not recalling, like signing off on things, no reports on anything that he did in any particular day. And Alan Jackson went on to detail there was reports that were 100 days late. There was reports that were 200, 300, 400, and as much as 500 plus days. It's crazy. It's crazy to even hear that. When I heard that, my head was spinning and it just shaking. I was like, how in the world is that even possible? And this involves a dead Boston police officer.
And that's just reports. How do you justify collecting evidence on one day and it doesn't get to the lab until months later?
Yeah.
Or weeks to months later. How do you justify that?
Anyone convicted, thank you, 7 Mary 3 for the 10. Anyone convicted based on investigations by this Bukhenik and Proctor needed to lawyer up for an appeal. Their cases should be thrown out and overturned, whatever convictions they got. And I doubt, I don't know. I know that he was on what's his name? Proctor was on the Brian Walsh case. He killed his wife and dismembered Anna Walsh. Remember that? That's the Norfolk DA's office. And that is, in my eyes, is another travesty of justice, because based on Michael Proctor's being fired, any good lawyer can fight this now and get Brian Walsh off on a technicality. Oh, that would be horrible.
And the other trooper, was it Jeff? His name is Jeff, the other trooper who testified about downloading cell phone information, extracting cell phone data. He was involved in the homicide of the young lady that was murdered by the police officer. Birchmore, yes. And he missed thousands upon thousands of text messages from Birchmore to the officer.
Yeah, another crazy case. And we did a couple of videos on it. Sue, thank you for the 2. I can listen to Ed all day, Ed Wallace, all day, every day. I think we can all agree that we could listen to Ed Wallace. The only thing I don't like is when he...
Stop breathing down my neck.
When he's breathing down my neck quite a bit. Thank you. Chrissy S., thanks for the 5. Can you please explain how much hunches / theories are allowed to play into a decision whether to follow a lead or look at a certain suspect? I'm going to tell you from my side is hunches, feelings, and theories are how a lot of cases get solved, how a lot of cases get moving. But legally, you can't go to a judge and say, I got a hunch or a feeling. Can you give me a search warrant to search a home? You can't do that. But that's how detectives, a lot of good detectives, and there's a famous line in Beverly Hills Cop when he's in the Beverly Hills Police Department, and he says, well, you know what? Outside of Beverly Hills, how a lot of cases get solved, and he's a Chicago PD guy.
Detroit.
Detroit. Thank you. Detroit. He says, we get a lot of things solved by acting on theories and hunches. But it doesn't seem like you guys do this here because they were all by the book, right?
Right. And that's why when you get a detective like this sergeant here who gets fixated on a hypothesis, or as he says, a theory, he comes to me at a crime scene and tells me, pick up this, pick up that to support his theory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'll turn around and says, okay, you can leave now. I don't need your assistance. I'll determine what's going to be collected and what's not going to be collected based upon the appropriate value of what I see here. And that's another thing. You got a witness that tells a detective one story, then that detective should come to me at the crime scene and says, I got a witness that's telling me this.
Yeah.
And what do you see in the crime scene? Does anything that this witness tells you match what you're seeing in the crime scene?
Yeah. Yep. It's amazing. Laura, thank you for the super chat. Kind of what we're talking about a little bit here. I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, this is what we just played, and he asked for Webster's dictionary, right?
But he used the word semantics. So, I mean, he used the word theory, and apparently he didn't know what that word meant, but he used the word in its proper syntax. So I will give him that. Right. Semantics.
Yeah. Rexy Rabbit, thank you for the 5. If Reed is found guilty, what odds of success does she have in pursuing a violation of her rights in a fair trial? This judge is not impartial at all. She'd have a good chance, and that's probably the route that she would go, right?
Yeah, with an appeal. I mean, because the judge has made, as it's called, a lot of reversible errors.
Yeah. Yeah. Sumo, thank you for the 2. I want to try to get through all these quickly. AJ reminds me of a cat toying with a mouse.
Stop playing with your food.
RN, thank you for the 10. A picture of this video speaks 1,000 words, and she's referring to the Waterfalls video. Ramona Alvarado, thank you for becoming a member. We appreciate you, and we thank you for being here. Under Your Scars, member for 3 months, should be an acquittal for the bias of judge and this goof on the stand. Period. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Yeah. Judge Bev is outright out in the open. She's not even hiding it. It's not even, it's so blatant. Ed, don't you think?
Yep.
Cindy Wigglesworth, thank you for the 20. The smart water he is drinking isn't helping. That's great.
That's right. I love it. I love it.
Good one. Michelle, thank you for the 2. Higgins wasn't roughhousing. That was peacocking.
Well, it was stupid. What it was is stupid and juvenile.
Yeah. I've seen it many a times out with the guys from work. Texas RN, thank you for a 10. I hope the defense reviews your channel. You guys rock. Ed mentioned to me a couple of times they're talking about things that we talked about last night. But I think Alan Jackson and his whole team is very prepared, and they're smart. And Ed's smart. We're smart. I feel like we're talking about the right things because we've done this and we know what it takes to do this properly. And I think that they're well prepared. So thank you, Texas RN. Appreciate that.
Wait, hold on a second. All right. I was just saying there was a question here from WiseGal81. What's peacocking? Okay, peacocking is strutting your stuff to get attention.
Strutting like a peacock. TLL 921 member for 2 months. Hi, Ed and Ron. Love you all in the DutyRon chat. Well, we love you, and we thank everybody for being here. Sherry, thank you for being a member for 2 months. Much appreciated. Lisa, 5. The computer and Alexa should have registered an impact event. Did they not run it for that? Probably not. They didn't run anything for anything. So my answer to that, just guessing, would be not. Cherry and Max, thank you for the 5. Ed, thinking back to Jen forensics class, do you feel evidence was photographed using proper lighting methods? ISO, flash, placement, and lighting? Fuck
No, well, I mean, the simple photo of the shoe and some of the other things they took, the tail light in the garage in the Sally Port. No, they did not use proper exposure. Probably didn't use a tripod. They didn't use the flash correctly. They didn't have any of the proper settings for the limited amount of photographs that I did see, because there weren't many crime scene photographs taken in this investigation.
C Bean, thank you in the chat. Good cops rule, hearts, blue hearts. Thank you, Ron and Ed. Thank you, C Bean. We appreciate that. Sherry Presley sends in a 5 and says the investigation on this case are disgrace to the good men and women who wear the blue. We agree. It's like a black eye to all the good ones.
But it was done with honor and integrity.
Oh, bullshit. Where is that?
Pardon my French.
Lawyer Liv, thank you for the 2. Why is not ideal for defense to call? Why is it not ideal for defense to call Proctor and Higgins?
I think they're going to.
They're going to. I would have to. I would bet. I wouldn't bet my pension, but I bet a lot of money on that. I would definitely bet it if I was in Vegas. Adeleri, thank you for the 2. Person on stand does not get to go to sidebar. No, definitely not. But Karen Reed and her whole defense team. And so does, and he's right there. So the person that's in that box is right there. When the sidebars happen, he's hearing what they're saying.
Oh yeah, I've sat in the witness and heard all these sidebars.
You're right there. You're right there. Let's see. KV, thank you for the 2. I don't understand how they're getting away with it, but they are. They are. We're confused about it too. Spread God's love. Thank you for the 5. I love you guys. Can you tell me how this judge is getting away with unlawful bias and her own illegal escapades? How?
Because they can't stop it right now, but karma is coming at the end of the trial. When this trial is all said and done, whatever the outcome is, she's going to have to answer for a lot.
I agree, Ed.
Step away from the bench.
Look who's here. Rhino Girl. Sending in the United Arab Emirates.
Dinar?
Yes, the dinar. 250 of the dinar comes in and says, she says, Jackson was on a serious demolition derby. Yes. That being said, my biggest concern is that because of this monumental mess, John will never get justice. I said it last night. He's the one who pays the price, and his family. I don't care, what people's feelings are about his mom and his dad. And we saw mom and dad today. Did you see that? They were sitting together, the O'Keefes. Did you see that, Ed?
Yes. And Rhino Girl, inshallah, John will get justice.
Ed always shows off. I loved Ed, but boy, he is a show off.
Hey, Ron.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
I didn't mean that to you. It just happened to hit that button.
Hey, Ron, can you see this?
Be nice, Ed.
Can I crank it up?
Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Thank you. Ask Bob. Thank you for the 10. Hey, you guys have restored my faith in good cops. I live in Canton, and we are all afraid to call our own cops. Imagine that. And Bob, thank you for the super chat. People here are afraid to call the Canton PD. It's frightening. The DA is so corrupt. The chief resigned. It's a mess. Canton PD is, in my eyes, a disgrace. And whether they have 30 cops or 40, whatever retired Lieutenant Gallagher was saying, they like to have 42. They all need to be retrained. And I would say a clean house and putting new cops in there would be the best bet. But it's a small rinky-dink police department in my eyes, and they don't know their ass from their elbow. And they showed it in this case, because when you have a dead person on someone's front lawn and you can't do a basic investigation, and you bring out a leaf blower to blow snow around and fucking red Solo Cubs, and you don't get the chief of detectives who lives right across the street, he doesn't come out of his house and say, what the fuck is going on here? I got a dead cop on the front lawn. No, nothing. Unbelievable. As I say this, Ed sits there and laughs, which is cute.
I'm laughing at what's in the chat. It's pretty
to it. Never say never. Thank you for the 2. Will John O'Keefe get any justice?
Yes, he will.
I hope so. But at this rate, Will we ever know what really happened to him?
Yes, we will. And I have faith that in God, and we will get to the truth.
Okay, what were you laughing at in the chat?
Oh no, some of the things that people are saying, and all I got to tell you is, folks, Rebecca, if you're laughing too hard, don't forget to do your Kegels.
God. Lawyer Liv, thank you for the 2. I have a notebook full of notes from you guys. So she's learning and she's taking notes. Look, it's Jennifer Nobles. Jen, no, thank you for the 2. Ed Wallace. Jen, no. Thank you, Jen. Thanks for being on my side. Little Misfit, thank you for the 10. Thank you. Thanks for you both for all your information, not only on this case, but what is normal, what us normal citizens should expect when interacting with police. Always love you. You're freaking love you. And something King in Alaska. Our King in Alaska. Well, thank you so much, Little Misfit. We appreciate you. We love you, and we thank you. Mary Marlowe, love you guys. Love Ed showing his passion. Ed always shows his passion. No matter what case it is, he shows it. But on this one, it's been a fired up Ed almost all week. So
I've never seen a case like this, and I'm telling you, in the forensic community, our forensic community is on fire over this case, and what has been done to our beloved discipline by these knuckleheads.
Yeah, it's a shame. Blueberry bubble.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Blueberry bubblegum. Watching from England, United Kingdom, 4:05 a.m. Thank you for being up with us. What do you got, Ed?
No, it was Terry Forster talked about her husband is a retired crime scene investigator, and he taught state troopers how to collect this, but obviously not these state troopers. Okay.
Trial is a sham and it should be tossed out. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not alone. All right. One more. LK, thank you for the 10. Thanks, Higgins, McCabe's, Alberts. Wanted to tell John O'Keefe what his girlfriend was doing, and it went awry. Conspiracy in the house. It's hard to believe, but Higgins, Albert knew what happened to John O'Keefe. I agree with you there.
Mm-hmm. And so did Proctor.
Yeah, and Proctor. Sumo, and all of these investigators. Sumo, thank you for the 10. I'm from Norfolk, UK. I think the Canton police are not the bad guys in this. Massachusetts State Police are supposed to be the murder squad. How do these 10 to 15 men are in charge? There's not 10 to 15 men. There's 4. There's 4 detectives and 2 sergeants.
And 1 lieutenant.
Yeah, and 1 lieutenant are in charge of all these unsolved deaths all over Massachusetts. Canton PD started out with their fuckery, and
yes,
it started with the responding officers, and that was a ranking officer who took his own car on his own. He did it on his own. Nobody told him. He took his own vehicle. He responded out there. He got a leaf blower. He got solo cups from the commanding officer of the detective squad of Canton. So how could you not say, and a stop and shop bag? So Sumo, how can you say that I think that the Canton police are not the bad guys? They are. They suck. They fucked this whole thing up right from the get-go.
Okay, and what happened to all those videos in the Sally Port? What happened to all of that stuff? They were in control of those videos and the metadata and all the files.
They all suck. They all fucked this thing up. So Sumo, thank you for the super love, but I respectfully disagree. Canton police are the bad guys, along with the Massachusetts State Police. They're all colluded together to fuck this case up.
Remember, and Albert is the best detective in the Canton Police Department.
The best. The one who left his gun in the car while he was out drinking. And is it just me? But all these cops drink and drive, and all these people that are partying with them are also drunk. I mean, again, if we want to be fair, Karen as well was drinking by her own admission. She was drinking. But everybody, it seems like fucking everybody in Canton. I mean, I guess that's not fair. A lot of people, a lot of these people involved in this case are all drinking and driving, getting behind the wheel of the car, and that's not a good thing.
And from the text messages, we now know Higgins, who's an ATF agent who has an office in the Canton Police Department, gets drunk and goes to sleep there.
Yeah. Attorney O'Leary says, not in Massachusetts. Civil suits would get dismissed. Qualified immunity for public officials in Massachusetts. Oy vey. Gigi, thank you for becoming a member. Little Misfit again.
$5 in the ground was not frozen as to the cause that damaged OJ's head. Snow insulates, at least in Alaska. We hate snow before freezing weather. Yeah, agreed. Thank you for the super chat again. Ditto75 says $2 super chat. It seems like the state wants to die on this hill. Wants it to die on this hill.
No, they chose it. They chose to fight on it. They choose to die on it.
Yep. They chose to fight on it twice. Lieutenant LT.
It's Eltina D661.
Thank you. Became a YouTube member. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you here. Sue Mo, thank you again for the 2. Have you guys come across Auntie Deb yet? So funny. No, I don't know who she is, but thank you for that. Maybe send me information on it so I can get in tune with Auntie Deb. I think, isn't she running the trial? Isn't she the judge on the bench, Auntie Deb?
No, that's Auntie Bev.
Auntie Bev. Oh, she said Auntie Deb, or was it Auntie Bev? Oh, Auntie Deb, yes. DC Pacific Northwest, thank you for the 10. Thank you, DutyRon, your brother, DutyRon and Ed. Thank you, brother, DutyRon and Ed. Well, we appreciate you.
Okay.
We're at the end. Charleston Amy, member for freaking 49 months. Holy shiitake mushrooms. Love you all, DutyRon and Ed. Well, we love you right back. Let's get to the regular chat now, Ed. I know you're getting tired. You're getting weary. Tiffany Knox.
I know. And my plans don't include you, but still here we are. Both of us lonely. Somebody should write a song about that.
Okay, here we go. Let's go to the chat. Hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRun. I know we missed a shitload of them while I was reading those super chats, but I would want to be fair to everybody. So those of you in the chat that have some messages that you want to get to Ed and I, hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRun. Let's see if we hit that goal. 26 out of 50. All right, we did pretty damn good. Let's look. Auntie Deb has a YouTube channel. He is hilarious. Oh, it's a he. Okay, he is hilarious. I got you.
You got it, Tiff. She figured it out.
Bob Seger. Yeah, I know it's late. I know it's weary.
I know my plans don't include you.
What are you people? On dope?
Mr. Hand.
Thank you for being here. Beamer 650. Thank you. All the moderators, the super chatters, the folks who are in the replays. Buy me cups of coffee. Ed, we're caffeinated till 2026. People are sending cups of coffee, and thank you for supporting us there. Patreon is starting to swell, and a lot of people are trying to get involved and becoming members. The memberships are swelling. So thank you to everybody who's here, who supports us, who supports justice. That's what we're here for. The victims, their families, and justice. And really, that's what it's all about. Lake Lizard said we're slap happy. No, we're just delirious right now. I've been up since 6:15 this morning. I had a full day of work, and then catching up with this trial. It's a lot of work. Joey Brooklyn says, happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful mothers out there. Joey Brooklyn's got a great channel. Check out his channel. Joey Brooklyn, good friend, great moderator. Awesome folks in the chat. Yarn Barf is here. How about that? The Trial channel. Oh, man, I was looking at this channel. This is a cool channel, by the way. If you're not subscribed, the Trial channel, and I think if this is who I think it is, they put up all the trials, but they do them in condensed version. So pretty cool. Thank you, Trial channel, for being here. We appreciate you. Amber, ATS News. Are you back in the saddle, Amber, or are you back to doing videos, or are you still on the motherly duties? I hope you're back. I hope you're back soon. I miss you. So, Trial channel says, "Oh, thank you." So nobody has questions. Nobody has questions for us.
All right. Hey, Ron, can I give a shout out to my friend?
Yeah, sure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I have a friend that was a former student of mine. His name is Jason White. You might have seen him on the First 48. He's a Tulsa, Oklahoma homicide detective. and he started his own little YouTube channel. It's called Into the Fire: True Crime Stories with Jason White. So if you want to give him a little support, if you go over to his channel, he does interviews with various cops and crime scene investigators and all different kind of people from law enforcement from all over the country on his show, and they tell some real-time war stories about the job and their experiences. And if you kind of like that stuff, go check them out. And if you do go there, and just to tell them, DutyRon and Ed sent you there.
Absolutely. Was that a channel that you were on tonight? Is that the
Yeah,
guy?
I was on tonight. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'll link his channel in the description. You guys can go check it out. Ed did an interview with them tonight about his career. Some funny stuff came in. Hold on, Ida. Thank you so much. Ida, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for your awesome insights. I'm shocked by this trial. Yeah,
Us too.
We are all. Makeup Queen, thank you. She says, when do you think the FBI will get them? I feel like the FBI is really following this thing closely. They are watching. They're like hawks ready to swoop down. There's a lot for them to look at here, and I'm hoping that they're doing stuff behind the scenes. The FBI always do things silently. They're not verbal about what they do. Right, Ed?
Oh, man. And after the trial, if they swoop in and pick all these people up, it's going to be beautiful.
I hope so. Patty O'Grady, thank you so much. You guys are honest and always on point. Thank you both. Hey, if you're new here, let us know by saying new. We want to just say thank you and welcome you to this community. If you're new, say new. If you are wanting to say where you're from, your city, state, or country, let's do that as we wrap it up. Thank you to Katina, Dawn Marie, and all the great moderators and great friends of our channel. Don't forget, Dawn Marie, she's got a channel too. Go and check her out. So does Karen, Legal Minded Friends, Karen Cole. Ed, you made an appearance on there. Or she uploaded some content for you as well. Okie dokie. I'm old as hell.
Yeah, well, get in line.
Miss Alma says, Ed and DutyRon, can we take a minute to appreciate y'all's insight on this case and others? Yeah, hey.
Yes, thank you, Miss Alma.
Thank you so much. Just subscribe to the trial channel. Oh my god. I'm really getting tired now. AC is new. Thank you, AC. We appreciate you. Jill Schneider, new. Wise Gal 81. What a cool screen name. She said, I'm new, but I'll be back. New, but I'll be back. I appreciate that. Texas RN, new from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Look at
Texas nurse.
Ed, you want to talk about also too? We have been getting a lot of messages on DutyRon.com and on all of our social medias. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're also on TikTok. Ed doesn't even know it, but we are. We're not swinging from a pole. We're just uploading some of our crime videos. But we have experienced a lot of new people subscribing, a lot of growth. We're close to, I think, 485,000 subscribers. Our goal is to hit over 500,000 before the summer's out. So we're striving to hit that 500,000 subscriber mark. And that's like, we're excited about that and excited about the growth, because with the growth we could do more. And I'm working right now. We've never had any sponsors. We never had anybody back, we've never taken on anybody. Let me just rephrase this. We've never taken on any sponsors for the reason of we only want to do something with a company if we really feel passionate about it. And there's a company called LifeVac that sells a device that if you're choking, you kind of use it, and if you're alone, you can do it yourself and suction out the stoppage in your airway. And I'm working with them, and pretty soon we're going to have them as a sponsor on the channel. And I wouldn't want to have something to sell to you guys that wouldn't help save a life. So I really feel strongly about this LifeVac product, and we're going to get to it soon. Ed, you want to take this question on the screen?
Yeah, Lucy Reed, do you think it's going to hurt Karen for flirting with Brian Higgins? You know what? It's a young jury. Now, I'm much older than these people involved in this trial, but I don't particularly like some of the things that I hear Karen and others say in these text messages, the use of foul language and all the cursing that goes on back and forth. But it seems to be prevalent today in this younger generation, women and men, and how they talk to each other and text to each other. And being that the jury is quite young, I think they may be able to look at themselves and relate to it as having been in relationships where they themselves have done exactly what you see in these texts and have said the things they said on those voicemails to each other. You know, it's not a good look. To me, it's never a good look to talk and act that way. But again, that's just me.
Somebody says they thought Jennifer McCabe said the FBI investigation was concluded.
Jen did say that on the stand.
Yeah, but
what does she know?
Yeah, that's what you took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you, Ed. FBI Tristan Green says the FBI doesn't tell you when they're close, when they close a case or when they're close to a case. Yeah, they don't really give. They're not talkers. They don't like to give out information. There's not many leaks coming from the FBI. It is a serious case. Thank you, Bam Bam, for being new from Florida. Much appreciated. Let's see. Or new from Fort Worth, Texas. All my exes are from Texas. Where the hell did that come from, Ed? I'm married 34 years. I got no exes.
It's a song.
Just saying stuff. Yeah. Love you guys from Virginia. Thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate it. Illinois. Black Rose is here from California. New from Boston. Timothy. And Timothy became a channel member or is a channel member. New from Boston. You guys are a wicked pisser.
I'll meet you at the Black Rose.
Oh my. C Street Lights, DutyRon. How do we know John O'Keefe's shirt was in Proctor's car for 6 weeks?
There was testimony that it was in the sergeant's car for quite some time before it was moved into the room to be dried. But then it stayed in that room for 6 days, and then it was supposedly repackaged and not delivered to the lab until weeks or months later.
Yeah, it's crazy. Maria says, question, can they compare Chloe's previous bite pictures to John's as evidence?
As I said, in odontology now, that has been discredited, so we can no longer use that in a court of law. But who knows what Judge Bev is going to do?
Right. Look, we got a good friend from the Philippines here.
¿Cómo está?
I'm new and I'm here from the Philippines. Well, welcome, and we thank you for being here. I know a lot of people from the Philippines do go live, so if you have a channel, let us know. I'd like to come and check it out and support. I always love to support our good friends.
Skylar, new from Louisiana. Go Tigers!
Yes. Here's Carter, new from Massachusetts. How many people are here from Massachusetts? Just out of curiosity. I wonder if a lot of the people who are tuning in tonight and to some of our previous shows are from Massachusetts, because I know if this was a New York case, and a lot of New Yorkers are following this, a lot of people following this from everywhere. But if this was a New York case, like P. Diddy is going to be starting, I think, next week. The New York doesn't televise any of the trials and such, but there's so many people that ask me at the warehouse where I work, at the Amazon affiliate. They are coming up to me and saying, DutyRon, are you going to be covering the P. Diddy trial? And I'm like, there's nothing to cover. It's not going to be televised. We could talk about it, but there's not going to be anything from inside the courtroom. So
I can say that I did a gunshot residue test on P. Diddy's hands and Jennifer Lopez's hands.
When that was that shooting that he was involved in, and she took off in the car and the gun was recovered inside the car, right?
One was in the car, one was outside the car. Yeah, Club New York.
So did you do that at Midtown South precinct where they were locked up at?
They were Midtown North.
All right,
yeah.
I was right the first time. Yes.
Yeah. She was in the juvenile detention's room when I found her there, and Puffy was in a cell.
She was, according to some of my friends who worked in both Midtown North and Midtown South, she was signing autographs in the precinct. So,
Well, she was also saying some very silly things too.
Yeah. All right, guys. So let's wrap it up. We did successfully 2 hours here. So I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for watching. And you know, again, this trial is about police officer John O'Keefe. He lost his life on the front lawn or inside 34 Fairview. We don't know because of all of this hogwash that's going on in this case. And I just want to make this clear. You know, we stand for justice and we stand for the truth. And the truth is not being told by the Commonwealth here, in our opinion. And that's the biggest problem. Ed, I'll let you take it over as I look for a little bit of something here.
Yeah, you know, folks, and what's happened here could happen. Karen Reed can be any one of us right now. She's just the physical manifestation of the bad things that are happening in that particular law enforcement community. Okay, any one of us could be the victim of this. Okay, and that's why we have to demand better of our law enforcement agencies to do a proper and conduct a proper investigation following all the standards. You're paying for it with your tax dollars. You should demand it. And if it's not being done correctly, don't make excuses. Oh, well, it's just a small town. You can't compare the budget and the of a big city crime scene unit like the New York City Police Department to that. Well, folks, there's only one way to do these things, and it's the right way. Don't make excuses for anything less. Okay, there's no lesser acceptable standard. That's why it's called a standard or a protocol, because this is the way it's supposed to be done. And it's called an international standard because it's supposed to be this way all over the world. Okay, so I can't stand when people make excuses saying, oh, it's a small, you can't expect them to do the same kind of job. Well, we should be doing it the same way in every town, in every city in the nation. Okay? It's called a standard for a reason. Okay? And if you don't have the budget and you don't have the proper training, then you shouldn't be doing this. Then go contract somebody that does have that proper training and experience and equipment to do it the right way.
Amen, brother. And I love the high energy that you exert here to tell our audience how it should be. And Elizabeth, to answer your question, and I see that she's frustrated because she put that in the chat a couple of times. It appears that Karen Reed did hit into John's, what was it, Traverse, Chevy Traverse?
Chevy Traverse, his driver's side rear.
I did not ever hear that there was any damage to that vehicle. So
they don't talk about it, but you know, there was an impact. So somebody needs to go look at it and check that out.
Right. But, you know, again, it's a little late. It's the 2025. This thing happened in 2022. We should have those answers, but I've never heard anyone speak about it. If anybody has heard anyone speak about it, let us know. And thank you, Elizabeth, for that. I want to put Police Officer John O'Keefe at the forefront because this is what it's about right here. I played this last night. I'm going to play it again. And a special thanks to Boston 10 for doing this.
We want to take a moment to remember John O'Keefe, the victim in this case. The Braintree native was a police officer who became the legal guardian of his niece and nephew after an unimaginable family tragedy. Canton Confidential, the Karen Reed murder trial. We'll be back right after this. Before we go, was a police officer.
The defense pulled him in.
I want to get it to the front part. All right, here we go.
We want to take a moment to remember John O'Keefe, the victim in this case. The Braintree native was a police officer who became the legal guardian of his niece and nephew after an unimaginable family tragedy. Canton Confidential, the Karen Reed murder trial. We'll be back right after this.
Now think about that. John O'Keefe's sister and her husband were killed. He took over and took over as you know, father to the kids, to two children. And now they lost him. So think about that, folks. an unthinkable tragedy on a grand level here.
And he deserves justice.
Amen. He definitely does. Amen. I'm going to end it with the picture of him in full uniform, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. May justice be served for him and justice for Karen Reed as well. And may the real murderers, the real killers of John O'Keefe be brought to justice someday, somehow, some way. On behalf of Ed Wallace and DutyRon, we want to wish you a good night. Thank you for joining. Please consider hitting the thumbs up and subscribing, sharing this video out to all of your social media. God bless and good night, folks. Thank you.